Hi guys, just want to talk to you about the V3 Rebuildable dripping atomizer. This is a small form factor dripping atomizer with a 510 connector at the base. When I say small, if I place it next to an ego battery, you'll see there's not that much difference in width. And the screen on top, it doesn't look silly. So this is kind of like a dripping atomizer that's probably suitable for those with egos and maybe those with other mods as well. It's kind of suitable for all. This comes with a plastic drip tip. Just pull out, it's a standard 510 drip tip, so you can change it to whatever you like. And it has 3 sections to the actual atomizer. These are all screwed together. So we'll just take the top section off. And the centre section has an air hole. Turn it off. And then you're left with the base. The base has 2 posts. And it's got Phillips threaded screws or Phillips headed screws which screw into the posts and they hold your coil in place. Now before we go ahead and put a coil and wick onto it, I just want to show you a couple of modifications I've made. The air hole was around 1mm when I got it. I brought it out to about 1.6-1.7mm. I particularly quite like an airy vape, but I find it easier to sort of take less air in than it is to try and suck more air through, if that makes sense. So I drilled that out with a little drill and grinder. Now when I got this, originally the air hole also was right next to one of the posts. Now what I'll do, as considering the air hole is sort of like the same height as one of the posts, it will stop the air flowing to the coil as it should do. So I took this centre section, this middle piece, just ground it down a little bit. I think I've just used like a little Dremel grinder with a Dremel disc on it. But you can probably use a bit of sandpaper, very fine wet and dry or something like that. Just a tiny little shaving off it. And that's all you just screw it down a little bit further onto the base. Although it's not totally perpendicular to the post now, it's a lot better than what it was. So don't aim for perfection, just make it a lot better, and that's going to be fine. So what we're going to do then is just stick a wick and coil on this one. I'm going to be using a 2 cm length of, you can get focus on that, 2mm silica. You don't need much, you can see 2 cm. It's actually quite a long length for the small dripping atomizer. We've got 5 cm of Canthil. That's 0.2 Canthil. I've got a small Allen key. What I'm going to be doing is wrapping the coil around this and then transferring it to the wick. The reason I'm doing it on this is because we're working with such a small piece of wick. It's going to be easier if I use something rigid. So you can use something else like a blunt syringe needle you use for mixing or swapping juices over, or anything you've got around the house. And to transfer it to the wick, I'm going to be using a bit of aluminium foil. Of course, what you also need to have is just a small Phillips screwdriver and a pair of nail clippers or something that can cut the wire. So what I'm going to do is just quickly wrap this bit of tin foil around this wick, just around the end. And what this will hopefully do, if I can get this right, so this is going to make it easier for me to get the coil onto the wick. You imagine the wick will start to flare a little bit at the edges. This will just give me a very much finer point. So it's like threading a needle almost. Just put that to the side for the moment. Now one thing that's worth taking note of is that the coil will only go into the posts. I think it's about 4 or 5mm or so. So you need to take into consideration when you trim the legs off the coil later. Obviously the longer you have it, the higher the wick and coil will be off the posts, but you don't want it going up too high. just going to do is wrap this around here. And do 5 wraps. So hopefully you'll be able to see that. You can focus on that. And slide it off. You've got your nice little coil. And then what you want to do is thread the aluminium piece through that coil, and hopefully it'll start to go onto the wick. Because it's never as easy as it sounds. Yep. Bit of brute force needed. Got there in the end. You can imagine trying to get it over those ends wouldn't have been easy. So what you're going to want to do now is trim those legs down. So I'd say go for about 7 or 8 mil. Obviously make sure the wire's straight beforehand. If you're not too sure, always cut off less. You can always trim it down a little bit later. And feed those legs to the posts. Now, I think that's standing up too high, so I'm going to take 2 or 3 mil off those legs again. Get your screwdriver. Just one in. To it. And there you have your wick and coil. Okay. So what you may want to do is just screw the middle piece on. If your wick sticks out a little bit, just tuck it in with your fingers. air hole. So I guess I've been quite lucky on this one. The wick's running that way, the air hole's going straight in there. If you need to, you can always move your wick around a little bit, sort of rotate it a tiny bit. Right, so what I'm going to do is just drop a little bit of juice onto that and test the ohms and then fire it up. So the value is showing, you can see it, 1.8 ohms. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to put a little bit more juice on. The threads have all got the washers at the bottom, so you can actually put a little bit of juice in the bottom without it flooding. I wouldn't suggest too much. Obviously you've got the air hole and you've got the drip tip opening, so if you put it down its side it's going to want to come out. Just screw that top cap in, put the drip tip on and set it at 8 watts. That's an immense amount of vapour coming off that. It's one of the reasons why I drilled out the air hole, because it seemed to make it a lot better. If you want to see it burning, for a little cheap kind of Rebuildable Atomizer, that's actually quite a good amount of vapour. Flavour's good, the vapour's good. I suggest doing those 2 little modifications I said. You might not need to do the grinding of the centre section if your whole air hole lines up correctly to the wick or where your wick's going to be. But if you like a bit of an area draw, I'd certainly get the Dremel on it or something and just open it up a little bit. I wouldn't take it up to 2 mil, I think that would be too much. But it seems to be quite a nice sort of diameter to vape with. And throw it here is just right. So that's all lined up well. Oh, I hope you enjoyed, guys. Thank you for watching, and catch you soon, no doubt. Bye bye.